Hello my lovelies, welcome to my little cottage by the sea, the place where I love to stitch and craft my way to a vintage inspired and sustainable lifestyle. The storms are coming in from the sea here in Hastings and the wind is growling around my attic sewing room, so it seemed like a perfect time to start thinking about and sharing with you some of my autumn sewing plans. One of the things that I have decided to do when planning my autumn winter makes is, in the first instance, to go through all of my stash and to use fabric that I already have, with the exception of one bit of fabric that I have bought for a very specific Patreon project. Everything else has been in my stash for at least a few months, if not years. So I've plundered my stash and I've thought about some of the things that I'd really like to make. I have rather a list, I have rather a pile of fabric, so let's just dive into some of my autumn sewing plans. The first thing that I want to make is this Vintage Simplicity, 1940s Vintage Simplicity pattern 8463. So it's a dress set, it's a blouse and skirt, and these were often marketed as dresses. So I really want to give this a go. I bought the pattern quite a long time ago and I've never got round to making it, but it's very beautiful. So my idea is that I'm going through all of my clothes and things that I'm not wearing. I either am going to have to remake or give to somebody who wants it, or give it to charity, or, you know, actually make everything sort of start being useful. So I have this wrap dress and it's basically the same as the wrap dress that I'm wearing. This one's got some sort of quite pretty sleeves, and I drafted the pattern for this a very long time ago when I was still doing bridal, because I used to make these for bridesmaids dresses, and I made this one as a sort of a sample to show people, but also to wear myself, and it's full length. I never ever wear it and it's the most beautiful fabric. So I have this idea, and it was inspired by coming across this blush pink lace in a charity shop, like a whole load of it. I don't know how old it is, but it's very pretty and it's a beautiful colour, one of my favourite colours. So what I thought I would do is that I would turn this into a top, and then the rest of the fabric, which is quite a lot of it remaining, I would actually turn it into the skirt that is on here. So I could wear that top with the skirt, and then I could change up the look and have a really nice co-ord set. And then I would make this as a skirt and the top as is, but then I could wear this top with the skirt in the Japanese crepe, which was from the cloth house many years ago, and vice versa. So it sort of gives me quite a lot of scope. And then I also have lots of this sort of pink lining. This one's got a bit of a print on it and I've earmarked for something else, which I'll chat to you about in a minute, but I also have a plain one, so I'll use that for the lining. So it will be this drapey version, and I get sort of two coordinating outfits all sort of based around this 1940s dress set concept. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I will be filming that one as a video to go up at some point in November. While I have my hands on this vintage fabric, which I've got a huge amount of actually, I made a vampire's wife dress out of this, and which took up a lot of fabric, so there's oodles of it. I actually am wearing this sort of as a dressing gown today, even though I'm filming. I'm filming in my negligee, one apologises profusely. But basically these are just really easy to wear, these dresses. And I saw this picture of Marilyn Monroe in the film Bus Stop, and she was wearing this sort of wrap dressing gown with all these frills and so on, and I just thought actually that's a really good idea to make some kind of glamorous dressing gown. I have sort of wintry dressing gowns. I don't know how much need I have of a Marilyn Monroe inspired glamorous dressing gown, but I just thought something nice, sort of loungewear to wear around the house while it's still reasonably warm. So I'm looking forward to making that, and I still have quite a lot of this left over. I might also make some pajamas out of this, something along those lines, so that I've got some nice things to wear around the house whilst I'm not really having to do very much. Marilyn Monroe's dressing gown is very frilly and very floral. I'm not sure that I'll be doing all the frills. I'm just going to be doing something along those lines, and hopefully will feel very glam whilst I'm lounging around watching all sorts of spooky goodness this spooky season. The next thing I have is this very beautiful, very drapey, viscose, Ramie blend Charteuse fabric, and I also happen to have, looking a little bit manky on this card, but I also happen to have these vintage buttons in the same colour. These are from the 1930s, and I'm going to be making a blouse based off of the blouse from the Simplicity 8447. I've used this pattern so much, I literally am in minus pennies now because of the amount I've used it, but I did do a lot of alteration to this pattern to make it perfect for me. So I think it's great out of the packet. It fitted me really well, as did the trousers, but I did make a big amendment in that I got rid of the pleat in the back because it was giving me tortoise back, and I think tortoises are wonderful, but I don't want to be emulating them when I'm living my day-to-day life. So that is the other thing that's on my list of makes, and I think I'm gonna do a very sort of billowing sleeve. I did tutorials for these over on my Patreon, Tara Stitch Coven. You're welcome to pop over there and see if it's your cup of tea. There's quite a lot of pattern cutting and vintage inspired sewing, plus talks about fashion history and culture, should you be at all interested. But this is one of the next projects that I'm going to be making, and I really love it when I see sort of chartreuse with pink, so I'm going to have to try some sort of styling options of this with the pink. Not something that I've done before, but I'm looking forward to giving it a go. There is a lot of weather happening out there. I hope that it is not too distracting. It's putting me in the mood to go and watch the 1931 Dracula, but I must resist because that is an October occupation. Whilst we're on the subject of chartreuse, I have this silk Dupion chartreuse. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. I hope I'm not butchering it to any wonderful, lovely French-speaking viewers. I have this, it's called Carousel Asparagus actually, this colour, and there's just under 2 meters. But I saw this amazing bag on the Charlotte Olympia Instagram, and I popped over to have a look at it on her website. It's rather out of my particular price range, but it's a really beautiful little bag. So I thought I would replicate the bag, make my own version. So I'm going to do this as a tutorial, which will be on my journal on my website with all the information that you will possibly ever need, and I'm going to document the process. So I don't know whether I'll film it and do a video here, or whether it will just be up on my Instagram stories or wherever. I haven't really decided, but I'm going to be making the bag with the cobweb embroidery, and then there's enough here as well to make a Marlena beret to go with the little bag. So I'm going to make a quilted Marlena beret, much like the 40s ones that you often see. There's a really lovely version in the film Guernsey Literary Doodah Potato Peel Pie, whatever the film is called. She wears a really lovely quilted beret, and you often see them on Pinterest. So I'm gonna make the beret with the cobweb pattern to match, and I've ordered a couple of vintage spider brooches so that the spider can live somewhere in the cobwebs on either the beret or the bag, so I'm really excited to do that. And the bag is going to be called the Arachne bag, and will be available as a tutorial for you to make your own, should you wish to. My very lovely friend Anna, who's off on her travels on a narrow boat around the canals and byways of merry old England, got rid of lots of her fabrics, and she donated this particular fabric to me, which does not look that spectacular, but it is a vintage wool, and a cream wool nonetheless, which is perfect as far as I'm concerned. You can actually see how narrow this is, so it's vintage of some kind. I need to give it a wash, and it's actually quite see-through, a little bit sheer, as you will be able to possibly see there. You can just about see my birdie tattoo through it. So what I want to do with this, I mean, there's a ton of it. I think there's about 7 or 8 meters of it. I am going to make one of my 1939 shirt dresses. I saw Bella Freud had made some kind of satin version with a tie belt with big sort of 30s blouse on sleeves. I've done sleeves like this called the sleeves of Fabulosity, and then one of my lovely patrons, one of my coven members, named the more extreme version the sleeves of Vampulosity. I have some great patrons, I have to say. So I'm going to do a shirt dress. I'm going to find some vintage cream buttons to go on this, and I'm going to do some very big sleeves, and then I'll just wear a petticoat underneath so that you can't see all of my lingerie. I'm very excited about that. And then I might even do another one of these blouses, because it's a really good basic item to have in my wardrobe, and we'll just go with everything, and there's plenty of fabric there. So although I'm making some things that are a little bit sort of an experiment, a little bit of a whim or an impulse. I mean, how much is an impulse if you've had the pattern for like 2 and a bit years? It's not really an impulse, but just one of those things that is not necessarily something that's like a wardrobe hero, I like to call them. They're the pieces that you make and you wear and you wear and you wear, and I know that those shirt dresses, I've made a few versions of them, and they are my most worn things. So a really lovely winterized version would be absolutely just the ticket, and it's in my perfect colorways. So if you are new here and you don't spend time with me in my little cottage by the sea, by the way, welcome. It's lovely to have you here, and if you enjoy yourself, do subscribe, because I love to share my sewing adventures with you. If you are new, and those of you who spend time with me, you know that my colour palette is black, pink, creams with shades of green and sort of pearly metallic-y hues as well, and I try to sort of stick to that palette. There might be a little bit of lavender, and I might go off-piste with a few items, but I'm trying to be very considered and really stick to that colour palette to sort of see what happens with my wardrobe when I do that. So very excited about making those, and it's a very simple make, so we shall see. Hopefully when I wash it, it will it won't sort of ruin the fabric. We shall see. You have to be very careful with vintage fabrics. So this fabric I've had for an absolute age, can't remember where I got it, and I will link anything that I possibly can, I will link, but because lots of these are vintage or in my stash, I'm not really able to, because I have no idea where they're from. But this is a sort of an ombre crepe leopard print, and I bought loads of it. I made a load of things that I sold a very long time ago, but I am going to be making a version of this Debbie Harry dress. Debbie Harry is one of my favourite muses, inspirations, and the cover of the single for Denis Denis was one that I was just obsessed with. I loved the song when I was little, and I used to sing along to it all the time, and I just loved the dress. And then way back when, I did a project on Patreon which was copying this Bieber dress, so I thought I could do a sort of a version of the Bieber dress with the sort of mashup with the blondie dress in a leopard print. So quite rock and roll. I do love leopard print, but I don't really often make things in it. Not really sure why, but this one, perfect. Pink, cream and black and leopard print all together. So I'm going to be making the sort of Debbie Harry Bieber dress, tea dress, a leopard print tea dress. I'm not really sure what to call it. This is a very, very high priority make, and hopefully I'll have lots of lovely places to wear it in the colder months. This next fabric I bought for a particular dress. I got this from Walthamstow Fabrics, which is ironic that it's a shop that I used to shop in when I lived in Walthamstow. I grew up there and now live on the south coast of East Sussex in Hastings. So I ordered this, and it's a really, really beautiful sort of challis, really, a viscose challis with these different shades of green flowers, and this is to make an Ingrid dress. So I showed my patrons how to pattern cut this, and they also got a PDF pattern of the Ingrid belt, and I am currently embroidering a folk motif on this to go with the dress. I've matched the colours of the embroidery with the flowers on the fabric, and am making the dress as we speak. Although actually I'm thinking that I might make it with a longer sleeve, or I might actually find some kind of knitwear that will go with this. So I still have the short sleeve and just wear a sort of a cardigan or something over the top. So I may end up knitting something that at least that means that I could wear it next winter. Sometimes the best outfits just take quite a long time to put together, and I do notice that if I'm thinking in terms of outfits, I end up wearing that thing more, whereas if I just sort of make a one-off and I don't really think about sort of where it fits in my wardrobe or how I'm going to make it work for me, it sort of ends up being relegated, much like this dress, to the back of my wardrobe. So I'm really glad I've sort of come up with a way in which I can give this item more life and hopefully enjoy it, because that fabric was so expensive. The next two fabrics are not going to look that exciting because it's very difficult to make plain fabrics look very exciting on screen, but I have two projects, well actually three projects, one of which I can't talk about, but three projects. So I just have this black, it's like a poplin left over from some projects. There's a couple of meters here. I saw this dress that Dita Von Teese was wearing. I presume it's a vintage piece, and then a picture of Hedy Lamarr, who's one of my other all-time favourite muses, wearing a dress with these huge buttons on. And I've had these huge pink buttons. I've got 6 of them in all, and I used to sell vintage haberdashery on my website, and I don't sell them now, so I've got them. And then I have this black left over from a project. I've got a couple of meters, and I just thought I will make one of my 1939 shirt dresses out of this and use these big pink buttons as a statement on them. Very simple project, not particularly rocket science, but I just think the pink against the black is going to look really, really amazing. And I have a blush pink wrap cardigan, Sinead wrap cardigan that I can wear with this. I think that the shirt dress would probably be better in something a bit drapier, so I'm kind of holding off on the project. It's not one that I'm going to be making immediately. We'll see about that, but I definitely want to use the buttons in this way, so it may be with this fabric, but then I've got a large amount of this next fabric here, which is a crepe, and there's lots of it, and it's very, very drapey, but it would depend on what I have left over with this after I've made the things that I want to make from this. This is just a basic crepe, viscose crepe. I bought loads of it from Goldhawk Road on a recent jolly there, and I did do a video on it, a fabric haul, so I'll link that. So what I want to do with this is a very specific Patreon project, which is top secret until October. And with what I have left over, I've got to sort of work this out. I want to make one of my Jubilee dresses in this, so just a black solid, because I wear that dress all the time. It's one of my most worn dresses, and I don't know if this is something that you would be interested in, but would you like to see some kind of content about my most worn items that I have made, or favourite thrifted pieces? Just sort of playing around with ideas, but let me know in the comments, because I am here for you. So that Jubilee dress takes up about 3 meters, because it's got this big sort of swag on the front of it. And then the dress that I want to make with this for the Patreon probably won't take up any more than 2 meters, so that's 5 meters, and I think I've got 5 meters, so that would basically be it. So I couldn't make the shirt dress with the buttons out of these vintage buttons, so I will have to have a little think about that. It just sort of depends on whether I which one of the dresses, the Jubilee dress or the shirt dress with the buttons, I want the most. I'm not entirely sure. I might put this up as a poll on Instagram or something to help me decide. This next project is the one that I specifically bought fabric for, and I got this from Jacob's Haberdashery, and it's this very, very beautiful lawn. It looks very Liberty. I think it's by Stores Fabric. I'm not entirely sure, but I've got 2.5 meters here, and my project that I'm making for my patrons. So we've already done the pattern cutting of the block, which is a midi block, which is basically like a pull-on blouse, really beautiful, easy piece for the wardrobe. And I am going to be making a version of this horror Vacui blouse that I saw in Liberty quite recently. So we're going to be doing a version of that for my top tier patrons. So that is what this fabric is earmarked for, and something that by the time you see this I will already be working on. So there is a theme with my final 2 fabrics, and also would it even be a video from me without mention of some kind of vampire's wife? I've already mentioned that I made one. Well, yes, I am making another one, and I am making it out of this rather marvellous vintage cat and rose print. Now, I am not really one for a kitschy, retro-y fabric. I'm more on the strychnine side of the fence than I am the saccharin side of the fence, but I saw this. It's from Dalston Mill Fabrics. It's a poly mix, which I don't normally buy, but I just thought the print was really fabulous. I've already made a Hearts Aflutter bag, which was a Patreon project. It's a PDF that you can download and sew, and I was going to make something else with this, but I'm actually going to make the Vampire's Wife style dress with the scoop neck and the ruffle sleeves, ruffle, and I can wear it with the matching bag. And one of the things that I actually want to be making more for winter, which arrives much sooner than you think, is a sort of a coat of some kind. So I'm hoping that that will all be one ensemble, and I just absolutely love this fabric beyond anything I can possibly convey to you. The second fabric, also cat related, is this fabric here with little Persians on, and I bought this actually for my daughter, so I sent her a load of it, and I just kept a little bit back because I'm going to make a little project bag out of it for my knitting. And every time I look at it I can see my daughter's cat Isadora, a beautiful Persian that she rescued, who is an absolute sweetheart, and I'm now obsessed with the idea of having a white Persian of my very own. So I'm gonna make myself a little project bag, and I can keep all my knitting or embroidery or whatever it is that I am working on in that. So it's all about the cats. I am definitely going into the crazy cat lady territory, and I am absolutely here for it. So the wind is picking up around the attic sewing room, and that is the end of my autumn sewing plans, which I really hope that you have enjoyed, and I hope the naughty wind has not been too much of a distraction while I share all of my ideas with you. Let me know your thoughts. I'd be very interested to hear. I am always very grateful that you take the time to watch and also to share all of your ideas and knowledge and wisdom with me. It really does mean the world to me. I'm gonna crack on with my sewing. A little bit of an issue as my sewing machine is actually at the sewing machine hospital, but I do have Brigitte, my 1950s Singer 99K, so I'm gonna get her set up and I am going to get sewing. I'm looking forward to sharing some of these finished things with you. I'm very excited about all of them, so I'm hoping I get them all done. Some of them you will see as videos and some will be journal pieces over on my blog, so I'll link that specifically for you should you want to go and have a little read of some of the things that I've written over the years. I hope that wherever you are, my lovelies, you're keeping very safe and well. Until next time, bye.